Thank you very much, Tammy, and it's great to be here with my colleagues from Commerce RI and also from Social Enterprise Greenhouse, and it's been such a fabulous half day so far. I'm really thrilled to be here, to be able to share some thoughts and conversation with all of you. And to Tammy's point about changing perceptions and breaking down barriers and understanding, how transformation can happen, I just want to share a few opening comments. I've had the privilege of leading the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce for a number of years now. And how many of you have ever been to Providence or have relatives in Providence? Okay, so it's in some ways it's like a tale of two cities. And back at the turn of the 20th century, Providence was the most prosperous city in America because that's where the Industrial Revolution was started. And it was started because of our depth of expertise in manufacturing. And the maker movement, the early origins of the manufacturing ethic. And those that ran the chamber were the industrialists of their time. So that's why we're one of the oldest chambers in America. So we have seen from the lens of the chamber how manufacturing can change cities. And over the course of a couple of decades, Providence lost its way. The textile and the jewelry industries left, and we were having some pretty difficult times. So that's where we want to change perceptions today and talk about modern day manufacturing, the modern day maker movement, and how that's really driving transformation in cities. So Joe, let me start with you. How have you been able to change the narrative of Providence? You have invested, you didn't have to be in Providence. What are you seeing that was really something that took your company into a new direction?
Thank you, Laurie. And you guys, thank you for having me. As a way of introduction, I'm a third-generation American manufacturer. So I've seen not only great things, but cities being devastated by plants moving away for lower cost and other reasons, and the harmful effect that has on communities. My goal in starting this company was to make an amazing product. We make leather goods, and I think that they're some of the best in the world, and we're getting better at what we do every day. But it was really key for me to make this product in America. When we conceptualized this some time ago, it was early on the trend, and people thought we were a little bit crazy. You can't make in America. That was a perception. You had to go somewhere else. And what I've been doing for the past 8 or 10 years, or I can't even remember how long it is really working on making something in America, because I believe that is the best thing we can do for our community and our country.
Peter, why cities? Why are cities the engines of economic transformation? What can they do?
Well, of course, more than half of Americans have moved to cities. Cities are where growth is happening. And it also turns out that we live at an extraordinary moment that enables manufacturing to come back. So the story that you're telling in Providence...
And you're a subject matter expert on manufacturing and makers.
So over the last couple of years, my colleague Marcia Kadenoff, who's here, and Dale Doherty, who started the Maker Fair and the Maker Movement. Has anyone ever been to a Maker Fair or any of these maker activities? It turns out these tools, whether it's things like 3D printing or sensors or advanced manufacturing, all of these tools empower people and actually allow us to become makers and realize ideas that we have. So you can be a professional maker, as your people are who are manufacturing, but when you empower kids with those tools, just as kind of we heard from Deontay earlier, you just become a problem solver. When you bring this stuff into schools, for example, in Pittsburgh, they smashed together art, computer science, and art, computer science, and shop. And suddenly, all of that integrated capability of having an idea, making it, learning math, scores went up, capabilities went up. And it turns out when you bring these things to cities, great things can happen. So, and an indicator of economic growth in cities is their affordable manufacturing space. So, for example, in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Navy Yard that has 3.5 million going to 5 million square feet. World War II, this was shipyards, then it lay fallow. Now, that's a predictor of people who get $80,000 a year manufacturing jobs. If it had been public housing, it might be $30,000 a year low-end service jobs. So these, and this is empowered by the fact that advanced manufacturing, new coding, new skills is enabling this supply chain to come back.
So it's your thesis that manufacturers, and by the way, is there a difference between maker and manufacturer?
Yeah.
And if so, what is it?
Sure. You know, anybody can be a maker. There's a thing called a maker space. This is the space that you go to that has 3D printers and CNC machines and laser cutters and code, and you have an idea and you can make something. And it turns out that anybody can go in and make something, and kids can do this. My friend David Lang, the biggest thing he ever made in life was an email. And then he went to the tech shop in San Francisco, and he made the world's first underwater 3D submersible robot, just because he wanted to. And he started making, and you know, these would explore things, and they were inexpensive. Okay, well, after he made about 5, suddenly he had to learn about manufacturing. How could there be a supply chain? How could he replicate it? How do you fabricate that? Okay, so now that's manufacturing. And it also turns out, as you point out, America kind of got rid of manufacturing for 30 years, and now connecting that up and bringing it back is part of the revival.
So Joe, you deliberately sought out Providence because of its maker history and its talent.
That's true. One of the great people that I work with, our creative director, Lindy McDonough, is a graduate of RISD, which is a wonderful school in Providence, Rhode Island. RISD does a great thing in that by the time you get out of there, you can take a product from concept and deliver it all the way to the customer and go through every step of the way. And these RISD kids are really tough. And Lindy really wanted to work here because she wanted to stay in Providence, and she knew that there was this bed of talent just like her, who was the young kids really yearning to work with their hands and value that and have a different path than the go to Harvard and then Goldman, which is not bad, but there is honor and dignity, and you can develop pride by doing something great with your hands. And there was a great community of people that wanted to do that in Providence, and it turns out that it was probably the most important thing we did was locate in this community.
So you've tapped into something really special in the way that you interact with your employees in terms of your benefits, your wages. Why don't you tell a little bit about that? Because that's a completely different dynamic on how we not only recruit talent, but also how we can retain talent.
It is a transformative thing, and it's not for stodgy people. I'm old, but I've been trying to think about. Really, it's about the way you interact with people and the way you need to, in a way, it's about dignity and it's about respect and it's about improving yourself. So the first thing about dignity is related to pay scale and what you can earn with your craft. So we decided with Ellen McNulty, who's our CEO and running things, has developed a program where every single person that works over 32 hours has complete health care, complete dental care, covered by the company. Everybody has we have people sewing bags that are making between $36,000 and $45,000 per year in essentially a 32-hour week. But the really cool thing about a 32-hour week is that covers your base, but I would say 60% of our people have their own individual studios. So they're working on making jewelry themselves in their off hours. They have photograph studios. They have other type of things that they're working on. So it's not just working here that is growing their life, but this is giving them an opportunity to work on something else that they feel passionate about.
So you're essentially seeding other makers in the community and really building up a bigger economic base than if you weren't doing it in this manner.
Well, we feel that our best people, it's been my experience, that your best people eventually leave and start something on their own, because really industrious people want to be doing something on their own. So what we're doing is we're cultivating people. We have 3 or 4 levels of talent that you can achieve, 2 directions that you can go professionally. One is a craft person and one is an administrator. But what they're really doing and seeing is how to create and run a business. So they say, hey, if somebody like he can do it, I can certainly do this myself. And now they have the skills to do it. And we encourage people to do that, particularly by saying that you're not completely committed to the company. We love what you're doing, but do what makes you happy. If you want to work in your studio, we'd like to help that. And it's really a trust thing. And another transformative thing is the way that there has to be a trust between, I guess you call it capital and worker, where we have mutual aligned interests, and we're going to do our best for each other. So I will forfeit so-called profits in order to make a great environment so that I can make something that's sustainable over a long period of time. And that's really important to me. And these people go back to their communities.
So let me push back on that a little bit. So how do you forego profits? How do you know when you get to that tipping point where you really are able to do that in order to be sustainable? Because you can't do that out of the box or else you won't be around.
At the end of the day, it's people that are making these products. And what I'm trying to do is make the best product in the entire world. And I cannot do that with lackadaisical people who are coming in and pushing buttons. I need every single person in that room to be a stakeholder, to take pride in what they're doing, and to be delighted with what they're doing. And everybody has a chance to reject quality, improve quality, make suggestions, make it better. And it's a very empowering thing, and it's a very much of a community thing. But at the end of the day, we found that it's a great way to get impeccable product, and that's all I care about.
So Peter, what about this concept of foregoing profit immediately in order to make your workers stakeholders? Does that hold water in your view?
Oh, I think the amazing thing about what Joe's describing is this is an intuitive entrepreneur who's plugging into so many of the trends that are going to drive the future of work and meaning. So one thing you're doing is your workers are upskilling and learning more. And even though you're in the crafts business and the handgood and the clothing business, there's ever more technology and skill you need. Well, school used to be a thing that you went to school and then you worked for 40 years. But we always have to learn. So part of a maker city is how do you accommodate this always learning, and how do companies accommodate that? It used to be like a company would want to silo you. It would teach you skills, and it wouldn't want you to have to go elsewhere because it invested in you. But you figured out you're building kind of entrepreneurs who fluidly come in and go out. And part of that is, as the tools of manufacturing become more powerful, one person in a studio can do so much. And then as to this profit bid, it happens in our history that there are times that we retool capitalism because it kind of gets out of whack. Like in the progressive era 100 years ago in the end of the Gilded Age, right? When we had the child labor laws and the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, we actually realized as a society, less profit, more people. This has been a continual dialogue here. We a little bit forgot about that, but as we saw earlier with Timberland, companies that build more meaning and more relationship into their product often do better. Portland has about $500 million a year of artisanal products. No, they cost more, but there's more of a relationship with the customer and dialogue there. And I think this can scale beyond even artisanal stuff. Custom electronics, prosthetics, even consumer electronics that have shorter runs and are more custom and then have more personal meaning, they actually create more margin. And you also point out the fact that you can collapse the distribution channel. Many of these companies sell directly, and that can cut out 30 or 40 points of a middleman. So you actually can optimize for labor and for meaning with the customer and change other aspects of the business. And this, I think, is a pointer to where we're going.
All right, so let me jump in and bring in a theme that we heard about this morning that we talked about at some length, and this is the whole notion of artificial intelligence and robots and the displacement that is going to create downstream. Yep. So how does that factor into your calculation, Joe, from a maker perspective? And Peter, what are the implications of this in terms of manufacturing being disrupted yet again by robots? So Joe, let's start with you.
Well, what we are is trying to industrialize craft and keep the craft aspect of it. One man can do so many things, and to the extent you can involve others, you can do additional things. But I think the important thing is, Laurie, I'm so sorry I lost my focus there for a second.
So, what people doing things with their hands.
Right.
Do you think that there's a,
So
is
the
that
way
a
we're
sustainable
benefiting
strategy?
from this intelligence and the new progressive thing is allows us to make a better relationship with our customer. One of the breakthroughs in our company, and it's not that great, but the retail model used to be through a distributor into you'd have a manufacturer, you'd have a distributor, you'd have a store, and finally the consumer. What the World Wide Web has allowed us to do is communicate directly from the factory floor to the consumer. So that takes a business that's a relatively high-cost business, and we're certainly not low-cost producers, but we're able to
So
have a value for the consumer.
Who are you competing with? Just give us a sense of who are your top one or two competitors in terms of the luxury bags that you produce. Very high-end names, I imagine.
Well, our goal is to be the American Hermes. That is our goal, and that is a quality that we're striving for. Other than that, I have a couple of rules for my kids. One of them is respect in all things. It's people, institutions, this other stuff. The other is do your best, and finally, mind your own business. So what we're doing is we're very laser focused on our business and what we can do to be our best.
So the changing perception of
Can I tell you a story about robots?
Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all,
Please.
I'm in Silicon Valley. We are obsessed, because we think we're responsible for this stuff, with what this is going to do to the workforce. My take on this is that it's not so much what the robots are going to do to us, it's that Henry Ford turned us into robots. He turned us into people who did small, repetitive things. And now that we've invented machines that can do that, we have to learn how to be human. And it's not so easy. But I'll give you some specific examples. Factories that use robots, of course, tend to be safer, and people who use them tend to be more productive. So that's something that requires upskilling. One of the most interesting thing I've seen is at Autodesk. So Autodesk is the company that builds the authoring software that lets you design the products that get built by robots. And they've become so sophisticated that, say you're designing a chair, it used to be you'd lay it out and design the legs, and maybe it would be 3D printed. Today, you specify what you need. It has to support this much, uses this kind of material, and the artificial intelligence will come up with 1,000 iterations of the chair in just a few seconds. Now, when they give this to a designer, her first reaction is, oh my God, I'm obsoleted, like she just did 10 years of my job. Then she starts playing with this for a week because she gets lots of iterations, and then she has completely new ideas. What if I used new materials? What if I approached it completely differently? Within a week, she's like, don't take that thing away from me, because I'm learning completely differently. I have a different role. And what they're learning now is that there's a jazz that goes on. The artificial intelligence can actually teach you new techniques. You're teaching it. And they believe that through things like neural networks, like looking at lots of people, based on the way that you design something, that AI can start guiding you to the best use of your skills, to the best career. So that suggests that there's something hopeful on the other side of this that isn't just being displaced, but machines that help us learn and accelerate and grow. And part of it is we have to invest in that, see that, and make more of that happen. But I think there's something unusual on the other side of this that can honor us and honor custom production in a way we may not be expecting yet.
Joe, what's the one thing that's been transformational for your business in one sentence?
People. The ability, the realization that people want to improve their lot in life, and that they will work in order to make that happen. As a company, if you can give them the path to improve their life, you can succeed as a company.
And that's how you transform cities. Thank you very much. We're done.
All right.
Thank you.